Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Potomac Season 6 Reunion Part 1. One quick little disclaimer before we get into it. I stand by everything that I'm about to say in this recap. I love you guys to death, but I'm not arguing with a soul in the comments. So, if you are fans of Mia, Giselle, Ashley, this isn't going to be the recap for you. I just want to be really courteous and give you guys that invitation to maybe X out of this video because, again, some of your colorist faves will be dragged. And quite a few of you guys get upset when I bring up colorism on the show. You say it's not real and you're reaching and everything isn't about colorism. While you're correct, everything is not about colorism. But on this cast, it is blatant that that is what it is. So again, I want to give you the courtesy to X out of this video because I'm going to be touching on some things that you might not want to hear, especially if you're a fan of certain people on this show. So, with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. So the theme of this reunion is Mia's Goddess Party. I have to say the set was beautifully decorated. It looked just like Mia's Goddess Party, so I said, okay, they did knock it out the park. Now, fashions-wise, I do think that this was one of their best. Potomac usually misses the mark. But I do like how they were all in pink. I thought that Askale looked like a Barbie doll. Okay, I love the side pony, beautiful. I liked Candace's gown, but I didn't love the hair. I just felt like for that kind of gown, she should have had a sexier style. That bob gave very much Jada Pinkett Smith when she was in Nutty Professor. Like, I was like, no ma'am, girl. That bob really just brought the look down, in my opinion. I think that was Ashley's best. I didn't love Robin's gown. I don't even remember what Robin wore. Like, I don't know. I didn't love Robin's hair. It was like that messy, boho, wavy style. I don't know what that was. Giselle's gown, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. Karen's gown was nice. I can't stand Mia, but Mia's gown was very pretty. It did remind me of a peacock. I thought that Wendy looked really good. The body was snatched. Face was beat. I liked Wendy's look a lot. She looked good. Am I missing anybody? If I'm missing anybody, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I thought that overall, this was definitely their best. So you know how Andy tries to warm them up and make some small talk, crack a few jokes before they really go for the jugular and start cursing each other out. He's asking Giselle if Grace drove her to the reunion. She's like, no, and she's laughing. Then he congratulates Candace on the success of her album, and he brings up that Anita Baker, the Anita Baker, shouted her out on Twitter. Candace says, I was like on the floor. I couldn't believe it. Like, I stand for Anita. So that's just a huge accomplishment, and I'm just over the moon. And Lord willing, Candace's music career really takes off so that she no longer needs to even be on this show dealing with the BS that she deals with. But I digress. Now Andy reads a viewer question about how Giselle's fashions have somewhat improved this season. And of course, Giselle's facial expressions, she's not pleased. She just hates when anybody talks about her fashions. So the viewer wants to know if she's still working with the same stylist. Is anybody helping her with her fashion choices? And Andy goes on to ask her, and how is that working for you? So Giselle says that she's working with the same person and it's not going to change. You know what I suspect? I suspect that her hairstylist, Cal, is also her stylist. I could see that. I will say, I think that Giselle's dress looked really good for the finale when she went to Karen's vow renewal. I think that was one of the best looks that Giselle has been in throughout her entire time on the show. Andy wants to know what Candace thinks about Giselle's fashions. Candace says, not really. Like, some of the things that she selects, I would not pick out. And then Giselle gets annoyed and she says to Candace, well, some of the things that you wear, I don't agree with. And Candace is like, well, girl, most people would wear the clothes that I wear. Majority of people wouldn't wear what you wear. So let's not but say that we did. So Giselle says, look, at the end of the day, I'm happy with everything that's on my body. Period, point blank. It's not changing. So y'all need to get over it. So now we get off of Giselle's fashion choices, and Andy's like, there's somebody who really wanted to be here today, but she couldn't make it, but she sends a video. It's a video of Nicki Minaj. All the ladies are fanning out. And Andy's like, yeah, I know, because she's a super fan. She watches the show. She just loves you guys so much. And she just wanted to say hello. I was crying because I said, well, we're going to be seeing in either part 3 or part 4 that Miss Nicki Minaj comes out. And she's about to be roasting and dragging and reading too. So I'm going to be here for that, child. We do hear some of the questions in the beginning when she's asking about, I think, Giselle and Robin being secret lovers and Eddie following all these booty models. So I said, okay, it seems like Miss Nicki came prepared to play. So I'm quite excited to see what's about to go down. We move on to the Mia portion of this reunion. They play the montage of everything that she went through this season. Andy starts it off by asking her, how does she feel being in this group? Mia says that it's been a very wild ride. Now Andy goes on to ask Candace what were her first impressions of Mia. Candace says, in the beginning, I really liked Mia. I thought that she was fun, like I enjoyed her. Then Andy goes on to ask Giselle the same question about what were her first impressions of Mia. Giselle says, my first impression of Mia was great, but then we got off to a rocky start. But I will say that she owns her stuff. Candace interjects and says, well, she lied about a few things. Giselle's like, Candace, why didn't you say this when Andy asked you? Like, he asked you the question first about what you thought about Mia when you guys first met. So now Mia jumps in and says, well, what did I lie about? Candace says, you lied about saying that you had clit surgery. So Mia's like, no, I talked to my doctor and it's in the same location, so it's pretty much the same thing, and my doctor said that you guys need to grow up. Ashley now jumps in and goes on to ask Mia, well, why did you need that surgery done if you've had C-sections? She says that she just wanted a little tune-up. So now Wendy jumps in and says, well, girl, why do you need all that done when your favorite position is missionary? I said, now, Wendy, what does that have to do with anything? Are you in their bedroom? How do you know what they're doing in the bed every night? Wendy, I thought that you looked beautiful. I know that you're happy that you're in the first seat this reunion. But I was getting annoyed with you with the snide remarks under your breath and interjecting and trying to have a moment throughout this entire first part. It got to be a bit much. So now Andy reads a viewer's question regarding Mia and this steak and lobster joint where she was making all this money without taking off her clothes. So Andy's like, I want to know all about this establishment. Like, what's it called? Where is it? She says that it's called the Men's Club, and Gordon actually built the entire VIP of the club. So now Andy wants to know, was it love at first sight for her and Gordon? She says it wasn't, but she fell in love with him after one of her best friends, who's Haitian, when they had the big earthquake in Haiti, he helped her friend start like an organization to raise funds. So that's when she saw that he had a heart, and that's when she started, falling in love with him. Mia goes on to say that this gentleman's club had a cigar lounge, a chiropractor on deck, a makeup artist, a shoe shine. I said, girl, where were y'all at? Like, is this a strip club or a resort? This whole Mia portion, I was shaking my head the entire time because Mia still could not keep her story straight. It was still more lies. Nothing was really cleared up. When Andy went on to ask her, so did you or did you not take off your gown at the men's club? And then she says, I did. I took it off and then I was just in my boy shorts. So Candace is like, well, why didn't you just say that? Because you didn't say that in the beginning. You just said that you guys were dancing around in ball gowns. Like, you never said that you took it off. Robin co-signs like, yeah, you never said that. So then Mia says, well, it's hard to get a word in with you ladies. No, it's not hard to get a word in when you're telling the truth. Like, all you had to say was, yeah, I worked at a high-end strip club. We wore gowns and took them off. How hard was that to say? I still stand by my stance that Mia is a liar. Her voice was so shaky during her portion. I was like, what are you even saying? When Andy touched on, did G invest in your businesses or not? That made no sense. She was like, he didn't, but he invested in 2 of the stores. But then I owned Massage Envy's and he owned McDonald's franchises. But then he helped me with 2. I said, which one is it? And if I recall, when she came on the scene, I thought she said that her and G had built up their Cairo business together. Did she not say that? I was just so confused. Like, Mia makes no sense. It was a lot of double talking. And then when she said, well, Gordon is an investor in something else. And so Giselle was like, so he did help you. Like, at the end of the day, Mia, you're not as self-made as you're trying to make yourself out to be. I don't know what it is about Mia having a strange relationship with the truth. I think that Mia is so worried about impressing people, flexing on people, that she says anything to make herself sound better. So now Andy reads another viewer question directed to Mia about why can't she keep her story straight. One day, Giselle has a beautiful heart. The next day, Giselle is just the worst person. So Mia says, it's not that I can't keep my story straight. It's just that I say how I feel in the moment. Like, if I like you in the moment, I'm going to say good things about you. But then when I'm mad at you, then I'm going to say how I feel about you. So Giselle says, now that's a lie. Andy brings up the incident earlier this season when Mia and Robin and Giselle were going at it. And so Giselle says, I feel like Karen was in your ear during that whole situation. Karen steps in and says, look, Mia is a grown-ass woman. I wasn't coaching or guiding anybody. She made her decision, and that's that. Now, Karen, let's be fair, because you're quick to say that Giselle is in Robin's ear and that Robin is Giselle's puppet, are you not? The same can be said about you and Mia. You don't like Giselle or Robin, and you wanted Mia to jump on the hate train along with you. So we move off of Mia and we're on to Giselle. Andy wants to know all about Giselle's relationship with this mystery man. So Candace is like, okay, yeah, because I want to know who this man is too. Giselle's like, let's have Andy ask the questions, thank you. So Andy says, yeah, like, who's the man? I want to know too. So Giselle's like, look, it was a casual thing. We were just dating. We're no longer a thing anymore. Like, that's all I'm going to say about that. Andy says, well, since he was a commentator, then that means that Wendy must know him. Giselle says, Wendy does not know who I was dating. Now Wendy jumps in and says, well, I do know a person who said that he was dating her. So Andy says, is it Van Jones? And she says, yes, it was Van Jones. So now Wendy jumps back in and says, no, it wasn't Van Jones, because Van Jones likes women with integrity. I started screaming because I thought she was going to say, well, Van Jones likes white women.
You know what? This is too much.
Well, he does, so, I mean, it wouldn't be far-fetched if she said that, but I was thinking, wait, Van Jones? Like, I didn't know he liked black women, but that's neither here nor there. But when I tell you that Wendy was out for blood, and she was determined to get a read, a dig, a piece of shade in at every single turn. Andy brings up Giselle's house. Is it coming together? He's like, is it a cohesive house? Because it honestly looks like it was a whole bunch of houses just mashed together. She says that it's coming along. Robin interjects and says, yes, Giselle's house is coming together and the entryway is finished and it's bringing the house all in. Now, I have a question. Giselle's house, I think, is only like 4,000 square feet. Nice size house, don't get me wrong. But why is it taking 84 years for this house to be finished? I'm not understanding. I mean, she's been building this house since, what, season 4? Like, what is going on? It should have been done already. Robin built a mansion and she's already moved in it. Like, what's going on? Why can't Giselle get this house done? Is it due to a lack of supplies or a shortage of supplies due to COVID? But I keep saying all these other women have built homes during this time and they're all finished. I mean, this is on the same timeline as Sheree Whitfield building Chateau Sheree. But let me just get off of that. So now Andy reads a viewer question about, does Karen still think that Giselle's home looks like Ronald McDonald's house? Karen says, I don't know. I haven't been to her house since the drive-by. And I said, not a drive-by. Karen has a few one-liners every now and again. I'll give her that. So now Andy wants to talk about Jamal and Giselle's relationship, or pseudo-relationship, or storyline for last season. He wants to know when they broke up. Giselle says earlier in the year. So now Andy says, we shot the reunion. You guys were still together when we filmed the reunion. How soon after did you guys break up? Giselle says they broke up after the holidays, around like January or so. So now Wendy interjects and she's playing Inspector Gadget. And she says, well, Andy, hold on, wait a minute, because that timeline doesn't make any sense. Didn't Jamal make a video with his own binder in December saying that he wasn't in a relationship? Giselle says, that's not what the video said to me. Andy brings up the Bindergate situation from the last reunion, which was a mess, but let's not even talk about season 5, all right? I don't have the emotional bandwidth to discuss that season ever again. So let's not but say that we did. Andy says, look, people could put the connection together that when it was found out from this Bindergate situation that he was fooling around with other women, and then he comes out with a statement saying that he's not in a relationship, and then you guys all of a sudden break up, they could assume that it was because of all the information that was exposed at last year's reunion. Giselle says, that whole binder situation was not new information to me. Me and Jamal had already talked about it, so I already knew. Now Karen jumps in and says, so you pretty much gave Jamal permission to make you the side piece. Giselle says, Karen, that's not what's going on at all. I will say this. Y'all know how I feel about Giselle and Karen. I can't stand either of them. But I think that it is a slight fixation that she has with constantly mentioning Giselle's relationship, not really a relationship, just her status with Jamal. Like, she really gets a secret pleasure mentioning the fact that Jamal cheated on her and had all these outside kids and that he wasn't faithful to her yet again. Like, she gets enjoyment just talking about it. And it's somewhat disturbing to watch a little bit. I don't know. Like, I understand that they don't like each other. I get it. But she constantly, like, that is Karen's go-to read anytime it comes to Giselle. You know, there's other stuff you could read her on versus always talking about her and Jamal. But again, I digress. Now, here's where I have some questions, because Giselle last season went on and on and on about how they were back together. It was the real deal. They were in a full-blown relationship, trying to get their family back together. So now to hear her say, well, we were kind of open, we were dating other people, we were figuring it out, it doesn't make any sense, because that's not what you said last season. I feel like Giselle isn't being all the way truthful because she's embarrassed and she's trying to save face. Now Andy reads a viewer question asking why Giselle is so vocal about other people's issues, but she's tight-lipped about her own. Giselle says that's not true. She shares her business with everybody. And Candace says, no, that's not true. It's not the same level of vulnerability with you like it is for us. And that is true. And Giselle is lying, because we saw her in Williamsburg saying, I don't want to talk about me and Jamal right now, like not in front of trolls. Whereas if somebody else is going through problems, she forces them to speak on it regardless of who's in the room. She doesn't give people the courtesy to say, well, I don't want to talk about that because so-and-so is here and I don't want to talk about this in front of them. She wants you to say it or she's upset. There are double standards with Giselle. Giselle feels like everybody else has to follow the rules except for her. And that's just not how it goes. Now, Wendy interjects again and says, the reason why Giselle is like that, she has a barrier up because if she really sat down and told the truth about how she truly feels, she'd be having a breakdown. Giselle's pissed and says that Wendy doesn't know her. And I do feel like there is some truth to what Wendy is saying. I think that Giselle is very stoic. I think that she's not in touch with her emotions because she probably would have a breakdown if she truly thought about everything that she's gone through. Now Andy has questions of his own, and he's like, I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, you let him back in a second time, and I just have to know, when you found out that he was cheating on you yet again, were you upset? Were you hurt? Did you cry? Giselle says that no, she didn't cry because she's not a big crier and that's just not her style. Now let's pause real quickly because this is where there are so many holes in Giselle's story. If you and Jamal were just figuring it out and still dating other people, then what he did would not be considered cheating, right? So if that's the case, then why would you refer to this as cheating? Again, Giselle is not being honest about what really happened. She's embarrassed and she's trying to save face. This whole thing makes no sense. Andy says, I guess I'm trying to say that if I were in love with somebody and they cheated on me the first time and then we decided to work it out and I gave them a second chance and then they did it to me again, I feel like the hurt and the pain from the first time would come back again and be even worse. He goes on to ask her, did the hurt come back again? And she says no. So Andy's kind of like, wow, I understand that not everybody is, super emotional and you might not be the biggest crier. I get that. But there are times when things do hurt and it is okay to cry about it. It is okay to say, you know what, I'm hurt. That really, knocked the wind out of me. Like, I'm just really going through it right now. And the fact that Giselle is so robotic and she seems kind of proud about it. Because when she was going on and saying, well, I've always been robotic. That's all my daughters have ever seen from me. I was like, that's what you want your girls to see? I don't know. I think that Giselle needs some help. I think that there are some emotional problems there. Was Giselle an only child? I never hear her mention anything about siblings. But I don't know. I don't know. I think that Giselle just has a lot of issues. I mean, a lot of issues. I know that we all have issues, but some more than others. I think that there is something wrong as to why she can't seem to tap into her emotions and how she's feeling. I understand that it's a defense mechanism, but damn, you can't ever let your guard down. That must be a very miserable way to live. I can't imagine. I mean, I cry at the drop of a dime. Like, I am too in touch with my emotions. So I'm always tripped out when I meet people or hear people who are very guarded and very just like stoic and dry. Like, that always trips me out. It's like you don't ever want to let it out. You don't ever want to cry sometimes. You just keep it moving. Like, I don't know. That's not me. I got to process it. I have to cry, and cry some more. Again, that's just me. I think I'd give Candace a run for her money in the crying department. Karen jumps in and says, Giselle, if you just shared your truth, you would win. So now Robin jumps in because she has to defend her friend. And she says, I don't understand why you guys are giving her a hard time. Like, just because Giselle doesn't react to things the way you want her to doesn't mean that something's wrong. I said, Robin, shut up. It's not about that. It's just about being a normal person. Sometimes things just really suck in life. Like, I don't understand how you can always just be one note all the time. That's not normal. You're never sad. You never have a moment. Like, Again, I think that Giselle would really benefit from getting some help. Now Andy reads another viewer question asking Karen why she's always shaming Giselle. Karen says, it's not that I'm shaming Giselle, I just feel like Giselle should have never went back to Jamal and she knows better. Then she adds that she feels like Giselle only went back to Jamal because Jamal is familiar. And it's a lot easier than trying to get to know and find a relationship with somebody else. And I agree with that. I think that Giselle is lonely. I think that she felt like, okay, this is a man that I was once married to. We have our kids together. It's easy. I don't feel like starting over again. So why not? Now Andy reads another viewer question asking Karen and Wendy why they always have to shade Giselle about not having a man, and why do they seem to define someone else's happiness by whether or not they're in a relationship. Karen and Wendy both deny that. I said, okay, now that's a lie, because y'all shade Giselle over not having a man every single time. Wendy, you kept saying you and your luggage can show up to the Chesapeake vacation. Karen is constantly saying that Giselle can't find a man, can't get a man, doesn't have a man, never had a man. Like, it's constant. So both of y'all were lying straight through your teeth. So Karen's like, you know what? I never said that. So Giselle says, Karen, yes, you did. In your confessional, getting ready for your vow renewal, you said how I can't keep a man for 25 seconds. So Karen says, you know what? Let me own it. I did. But in all fairness, it was therapeutic for me because of all the years of Giselle taking jabs at me and reading me down. So Giselle says, what jabs have I thrown at you, Karen? I said, Giselle, the way all these women will sit up here and lie with a straight face, I'm like, have you been watching the same show that we've been watching? Giselle, you were constantly cracking on Karen's age. Now, Andy jumps in and says, now, Giselle, in all fairness, you spent all of season 3 making fun of Karen and Ray's tax issues. So since they're on the topic of tax issues, Andy brings up the articles about Jamal Bryant owing $800,000 in back taxes. Giselle is like, that has nothing to do with me. I'm not married to this man anymore. That's his problem. My taxes are paid. So Karen jumps in and says, now sis, since I've been here before with my husband, I can put you up on game. You need to lawyer up because at the time you were married to him, so they could come after you. So Giselle says, they're not coming after me. My taxes are paid. That's all on him.
No.
Karen says, you need to lawyer up because, again, this could affect you. Andy says, at the end of the day, that's still your daughter's father, so it indirectly affects them along with you. So she just keeps saying, we're fine. Me and my daughters are good. I said, girl, you better hope so. And I pray that you guys filed your taxes separately when you guys were still married together, because if not, they very well could be knocking on your door too. And won't that be a mess? Because after all that stuff you talked about Karen, season 3, that would be some karma for that ass. So I hope that all of your affairs are in order, and I hope that you filed separately. But I digress. Now they bring out Askale, and Askale, like I said, looked beautiful. She looked like a Barbie doll. And Andy's reading all the compliments about Askale being the best dressed, how everybody loves her style, and how she needs to help a lot of these other ladies. I was laughing because nobody looked happy when he said that, but it's the truth. Overall, Potomac cannot dress. I think that they are the worst dressed franchise. Like, they usually miss the mark 9 times out of 10. Andy wants to know, who would Askale style if she had the chance to? She says Giselle, and Giselle's face was so tight. I said, Askale, if you come back on as a full-time housewife next season, please know that Giselle is going to be on you, because you know she holds grudges. She's already nasty. So you can be assured that she's going to be coming for you, because she's going to be pissed that you said that. So Giselle's rolling her eyes, and Askale says, yeah, it will be Giselle, to keep her current. Giselle's still rolling her eyes, and then Andy says, "Do you have anything to say to that?" And Giselle says, "No, like let's keep going." So now Andy jokes around and says, "Wow, Giselle, you really take a licking and keep on ticking anytime they shade you about your fashions." And then she just makes a joke and they move on to Miss Candace. So they finish watching the Candace montage. And now Andy's asking her about her record deal. Candace says that she signed her deal with E1 and she's just over the moon. Andy goes around the room to ask if they've all listened to her album. Giselle says that she listened to the majority of it. Wendy listened to the whole album. I think Askale listened to the whole album as well. So now Andy goes on to ask Ashley. And Ashley just as hateful and as evil as she wants to be and says, "Not yet, but you know, I'm gonna get around to it." So now Andy wants to be shady and goes on to ask if Candace's album is better than her stupid single called Coffee and Love. So she says, "Now, hold on. I mean, we really did our thing with Coffee and Love. Like, I put my foot in Coffee and Love." So Candace says, "I'm sure you did." Said, "Ashley, you are so delusional and so hateful. You can't even admit to yourself that Candace can sing and you cannot. Nobody was checking for your single. You cannot sing. You have no vocal ability. You can't dance. Just own it and be like, you know what, Candace? You did that. We might not get along, but I can still give you your propers and say that you did the damn thing with the album." And I find it so funny that Ashley has now taken this sudden interest in trying to be a TikTok star. I said, why is this? Are you trying to compete with Candace on some sort of level? Because Candace is in movies. She's on TV shows. She has an album out. The Anita Baker shouted her out. You trying to compete with that on some level? But you can. So let's get that straight. And I also think it's very telling how Ashley was at the end, because Ashley is generally in the middle or a lot closer to Andy, okay? And the fact that she's sitting at the end of this reunion, I said her time is coming to an end, and Lord willing, this is going to be her last reunion. So now they change gears, and Andy wants to know, how is Chris qualified to start managing Candace? Candace says it's not about him having the skill set. It's the fact that, you know, he's good at managing her. He gets all of her stuff together because she has a very busy schedule. So then he goes on to ask if Candace is paying Chris. Candace says, "No, I'm paying him in love." So now Mia decides that she wants to insert herself and say, "By the way, that's prostitution." I said, "Mia, shut up. Nobody was speaking to you, and you sounded stupid." Andy brings up Giselle saying that Chris is riding Candace's coattails, and he wants to know if the other women feel the same way. Ashley takes it upon herself to get shady, and she says, "Well, I feel like Chris, he's lost his footing. He's lost his confidence with the restaurant closing down and the pandemic. He's drinking a lot more. Like, he's a lot different than the Chris that we met in the earlier seasons." I said, "Ashley, don't you ever fix your lips to discuss anybody's husband. Not when Michael is out there grabbing people's butts, cheating on you, taking folks back to hotels, okay? Wanting to have threesomes. Don't you ever speak on anybody's husband losing their confidence." I would have cursed Ashley clean out for that. Don't speak on my husband. Not only do we not get along, but now you want to insult him? Absolutely not. So now Andy wants to know if Chris's name is on the deed of their new house. Candace says yes. Both of our names are on the deed. Like, nobody helped us. Like, it's our names. So now Andy brings up how her mom was trying to act like she had some financial contribution to their bills and the house. And she says, once again, Mama Dorothy's name is not on the deed. Chris and my name are both on the deed. Like, let's not. Mama Dorothy had nothing to do with this. And if Mama Dorothy's name was on the deed, why does that matter? Who cares? Everybody is always preaching about generational wealth, this and that, and how we want to see more black people who have money. Then when we actually see black people with money, now folks get angry. People get jealous. Now it's all these snide remarks about how Candace is too old to still be taken care of. Now it's all that. I stand by what I've said in the past about folks don't mind seeing black women who are rich due to meeting a man, but they seem to take issue with a black woman, especially a dark-skinned black woman who grew up rich. It seems to be an issue. It just seems like Candace and her being from privilege really ruffles some feathers. It's a very interesting dichotomy to me that you can praise a lot of these other women, but Candace being taken care of by her mom is an issue. Has anybody said anything about Lisa Vanderpump buying her daughter and son-in-law a brand new house? No one has said anything about that. It's been, oh yes, I know that's right. Has anybody said anything about Kathy Hilton putting her son Barron on? He's one of the head people at Rick Hilton's firm. He's selling all the houses. He has a beautiful home. Has anybody gotten mad about that? Kyle and Mauricio taking care of their daughters, making sure that they're all set. Kyle's oldest daughter, who she had from her first marriage, is working for Mauricio's agency. Several of these white housewives have set their children up for success, and nobody bats an eye when they see that. But when we see black people who came from something, it's an issue. I want everybody to make it make sense because the math just isn't mathing. Do we want to see rich black kids? Yes or no? Because folks are saying one thing and then saying something different when they actually see it. So again, let me know. So now we move on to the infamous video shoot where Dorothy and Mia showed their entire asses. Andy goes on to ask what we are all dying to know. What did Chris think when he saw the episode air of Mama Dorothy disparaging him and throwing him under the bus? Candace says, before I answer this, can somebody pass me a Kleenex, please? Because I already know I'm about to start crying. I was cracking up because Andy and Giselle were trying to fold the tissue up because we all know that Candace likes to fold her tissues up in like a triangle, and they call them crying goals for Candace. Candace, I'm not going to keep saying it, but please partner up with Kleenex and get that tissue money. Like, you would have Kleenex really selling out even more. Like, you're the perfect person to represent a tissue brand. That is money. And bring me in with you because we can cry together. Like, I can cry. So I'll be right there in the commercial crying, showing how well Kleenex works. Candiace says when the episode aired and Chris saw it, he was very upset. She starts crying and says that her family will never be the same. Candiace says that as a wife, she doesn't want to see her husband upset, but on top of that, to see her mom sit there and make her husband look bad, that's even worse. Especially because she said in the past that she likes Chris. So what would possess you to do such an evil thing? Especially to some women that you know don't like your daughter. Why would you give these women ammo against your daughter? That's madness to me. I think that Dorothy is a very miserable woman. I think that she resents Candace because Candace has a relationship with her father, who's Dorothy's ex-husband, that Dorothy seems to be, still in love with. I also feel like Dorothy's trying to live vicariously through her daughter, and she's probably jealous that Candace is even on this show and is now famous. Because Miss Dorothy seems like she's kind of thirsty for the spotlight herself. She probably wishes she could trade places with her daughter. That's what it gives me. So Candace is still crying, and she goes on to say that her in-laws watch the show too. And now it's real awkward when she's around them because of what they're seeing with her mom disparaging their son. So she's like, I feel like I shouldn't even be there. Like, I just feel so embarrassed. I would not speak to my mother ever again if she pulled a stunt like that. Let me tell you. I mean, the fact that Candace's relationship is probably kind of strained now with the in-laws because of what her crazy mom is doing. It's just a hot mess. And let's think about it. When you're on TV and somebody says something disparaging like that, like, you're a bum or you don't have a job, that stuff sticks with you. And her saying that could have other potential vendors or clients looking at him funny like, oh, I don't want to hire him. He's, not doing anything. All because of some nasty comments that his mother-in-law made. A mess. I felt really bad for Candace because you could tell that she's in a lot of pain. And I already know that it's just awkward now, and she just probably feels like her and Chris are on an island by themselves. So now Andy brings up the other problems that came from the video shoot. He brings up the situation with Mia calling Candace's video low budget. Mia doubles down and says, well, it was low budget. Now, a few episodes ago when you guys were in the Chesapeake, you apologized for making that comment. So now you want to double down and say it's low budget? So let me just break it down for you, Mia. The song is called Drive Back. Like driving back home to your boo, right? So her having it at a parking lot makes sense, don't you think? Where else was she supposed to have this video shoot at? The Ritz-Carlton? Like, let's make it make sense. What was so low budget about this video shoot? Now, you know what was low budget? Giselle's party that had no food. It had the world's small charcuterie tray and nothing else. Karen's vow renewal was low budget. Candace's video shoot was fine. So because nobody was there to greet you when you arrived to the video shoot, that makes it low budget? And who the F are you? Mia, I'm gonna let you know something right now. You have no business calling anybody or anything low budget. Because while you might make $400,000 a year, or I think you said $450,000 a year, like the tacky person that you are, you still look low budget. You still act low budget. The constant bragging about how much money you have, that's beyond gauche. Who does that? Now Andy reads another viewer question saying that Candice had to know about Mia's trauma with her mother. Candice says, I did not know. So now Candice goes on to say, look, when I said the your mama thing, it's like joning. And in the Black community, like, that's just what we do, okay? And Mia should be grateful that that's all I said, because I could have said much worse, but I didn't. Now Giselle interjects and says, so after watching that episode play out, you still feel justified? So now Giselle goes on to say that Candace's actions are not justifiable. Now I know that I'm in a great mood, but here's where I'm about to start going off, so you might want to turn the volume on your AirPods down, because this is where I'm going to start yelling. Blood is boiling just a little bit, all right? Because this is where I'm about to really go in, because I was really pissed off. And when Andy decided to jump in and say, so how's that working for you, how you respond to people? And then when he brought up the assault and damn near alluded to Candace's mouth being the reason why she almost got physically assaulted, I was too through. On what planet was she almost physically assaulted? She was assaulted. Monique touched her. Monique hit her. So what are you saying? So now Candace is getting upset and she's like, so you're saying that I deserve to be physically assaulted last year? Like, what's going on? Candace goes on to say that everybody on this cast hits below the belt, goes for the jugular, and has said very vile and nasty things to each other. So why is she always the one who's being attacked for her mouth? They all say disgusting things about each other. And how come nobody has ever reiterated how nasty Ashley has been since season 1? we can just go off of season 3. Ashley knew what Karen was going through. Karen was dealing with dying parents, and Ashley kept coming for Karen. We can play the tape back. I know what I'm talking about before anybody tries me in the comment section, okay? Then she went after her good buddy old pal Monique. She went on that camera and said that Monique had 4 drinks, said that she was an alcoholic, and then insinuated that that was the reason why Monique had had a miscarriage. Did she or did she not? And for some reason, nobody on this cast can remember the things that she said, but everybody is up in arms when Candace reacts. Ashley has gotten away with murder on this cast. Giselle says nasty things about people as well. Robin put her fingers in Ashley's face and told Ashley that she better stop talking about her and Juan. Did she or did she not? She almost got into it with Monique on the sidewalk at Karen's perfume event season 3. And nobody said anything about that. That's okay. But when Candace defends herself and when she goes for the jugular, now it's too low. I am sick and tired of them starting with her first. Then when she finishes it, now they can't take it. They want Candace to sit there and shut up and take their abuse. And because she won't take it lying down, now they want to act like she's the aggressor and the villain and that she deserves for somebody to hit her or go upside her head. Somebody give me one example where Candace went after somebody unprovoked. I'll wait. Andy brings up the butter knife situation yet again from season 4. I said, here's what we're not going to do. Ashley came back into her home after Candace had kicked her out. Do not come back into anybody's home after they kicked you out. That's called trespassing. So technically, Candace was well within her right to defend herself, right? Because I'm sure had Candace gone back into somebody's house after they had kicked her out, they all would have justified their actions against her, right? So now Andy says, but Candace, why do I wake up to tweets every day saying that I need to fire you? I said, Andy, how dare you? Because you get tweets every day asking to fire Ashley and Michael Darby. And then when Candace said, but I don't start it, y'all come for me first and I finish it. And do you guys notice how quiet everybody was? Everybody knows that she's right. And they're trying to gaslight her like she's crazy. And they are determined to spin the narrative that she's the troublemaker. Andy goes on to say that Candace is the common denominator. I said she is, because we can roll the tape back and see that it's really Ashley and Giselle are the common denominators of all the mess in this group, if we really want to play that game. So how is Candace the common denominator? She's a common denominator that they always start with her first, because they know how reactive she is, and they know that they can get everybody on their side and against her. Candace, I want to have an interview with you, please. Like, come on, reach out to me. My email address is in the description box. Please hit me up, because we will have a good old time. We can go live, whatever you want. We can do a pre-recorded interview, whatever you want, but we need to talk because I'm really getting tired of watching this. I just am. I'm tired of them trying to spin this narrative like you're the troublemaker when you're not. So now Giselle says, you threw the salad first. Candace says, it was a piece of lettuce. Did you guys catch when Karen said under her breath, you threw 2 pieces and I was scared? I said, Karen's another one. I said, Karen, you were scared about 2 pieces of lettuce being thrown? I would have been annoyed. I would have been aggravated because it's like I paid for all this food for all of us to eat and now you done put your hands in it and, mess that up. But to say you were scared, you're not scared of anybody throwing a few pieces of lettuce. So let's stop. Now Candace addresses another issue that she has with Mia, and she says, Mia, I have a humongous problem with you insinuating that my comments would cause your mom to relapse, when you know good and damn well you have been parading your mother as a storyline this entire season. I said, Candace, you better tell her. Because I said the same thing. If you were so concerned about your mother's sobriety, you would have never put her on this show in the first place. Every single time Mia has a one-on-one with her mom is always crying, asking her not to bring up her issues. Always. When they went out for their lunch date and Mia asked about who put you on the drugs, was it daddy? And her mom clearly said, Mia, I don't want to talk about this. But you forced your mom to talk about it anyway, and she was sitting there crying. It is evident that your mom does not want to talk about y'all's issues on camera. But you want to say that Candace would cause her to relapse. No, it would be you to cause her to relapse. You clown. And Ashley trying to insert herself saying, you go for the jugular. And what do, sis? Girl, stop. You be trying to chop people down at their knees. Because what you did to Katie Ross in season 4, honey, you sent that lady spiraling into a breakdown. And you had known what she had went through. She lost custody of her 3 children, didn't have any money, and had a miscarriage, and you knew that information behind the scenes. Giselle, when you fixed your lips to say that if Mia had popped you, you would have understood, for you to be Jack and Jill, AKA your father is a big-time civil rights leader, for you to have the pedigree that you've always claimed that you've had, for you to have the sophistication and the manners, the way you rallied around about what Monique did was horrendous, and how under no circumstances is it ever okay to put your hands on somebody. Did you not? You brought security when Monique was there and they had that little discussion at Karen's house last season. And while I agree that violence is unacceptable and that Monique was wrong for what she did, for you now to fix your mouth and say that it would have been okay had Mia hit Candace, that's unreal to me. And it shows that you never liked Candace. You just hated Monique so badly and you wanted her off the show so badly that's why you got behind Candace. Candace, season 7, you better know that you are pretty much on an island all by yourself. We have Mia and Candace still going back and forth. Mia says that she brought her mom on the show to inspire others. I said, excuse my French, but hey, sometimes you just gotta say it. That is absolute BS and you know it. You brought her on this show because you knew it would be a good storyline for you. You don't care about your mom inspiring anybody. You're just sitting there milking all this attention and sympathy so that you can come back for season 7. I'm telling you all right now, I'm very happy that we have only 3 more parts to go. I'm going to say this. If some serious cast changes are not made after this reunion wraps up, I do not know if I will continue watching or reviewing Potomac going forward. They have some serious issues. This cannot keep going on. Some people need to be demoted, fired, just gone. I'm sick and tired of watching this. I don't watch TV to be annoyed. I don't watch TV to be irritated. I watch to have fun, laugh, talk to you guys, joke around, and that's about it. But all this other stuff, it's like this isn't enjoyable. But y'all, that's where part 1 ends. We have 3 more to go. I'm going to be doing cartwheels when this is all over. And I'm going to be taking a much needed break, okay? So, I hope you all enjoyed my recap. Thank you so much for watching. As always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all for Salt Lake City. Bye.